The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the January Expert webinar with Golden Shovel Agency. My name is Aaron Brissois. I'm CEO of Golden Shovel. I'm excited to introduce you guys today to Paul Hendershot, who's an account executive over at IMPLAN. And today's presentation is called Measuring the Impact of Changes in the Economy. And an overview of that is in 2012, after an extensive site selection process, New Belgium Brewing, maker of the popular Fat Tire Ale, chose to build its East Coast brewery in Asheville. Asheville Chamber of Commerce utilized the IMPLAN model to estimate the impact of the 145 new jobs and $175 million of investment over the next 7 years. According to the Brewers Association, small independent brewers contributed $55.7 billion to the U.S. economy and $1.2 billion to the North Carolina economy. In this session, we're going to review this specific case study and we'll discuss step-by-step processes for performing this important analysis in your communities for all of you listening today. And before I introduce Paul, just to cover a couple of pieces, if you'd like to ask questions, feel free to type them in the GoToWebinar control panel over on the right side of your screen. After he's done with this presentation, we'll ask those questions. And then this, for the record, this will be recorded. So if you like what you see and you'd like to share it with some other people in your organization or those people that might have missed it, we'll have it available to be viewed afterwards. So we can just feel free to contact Victor. His email is vperez, P-E-R-E-Z, @goldenshovel.com. So, it's a little more to do. Let me introduce Paul Hendershot. He is, once again, account executive with IMPLAN. He previously served as director of research for the Charlotte Chamber, independent economist, adjunct professor of applied economics at the University of North Texas, and director of research for the Dallas Regional Chamber. During his tenure at the Chamber, Paul completed over unique economic development projects, including Co-America, AT&T, Gulfstream, Arbitron, Capital One, Research in Motion, and among others. Paul, welcome, and thank you for being with us today.
Thank you, Aaron.
Okay, so I'm going to send this over to you.
Okay. All right. Well, let's get started. So I have a very brief PowerPoint presentation or a presentation here, and what I'll do is just quickly review, kind of give everyone a little bit deeper understanding of what IMPLAN is, some of how we've been used, how economic impact modeling can really help your economic development efforts, and also really give a deeper understanding of how this model works. And then what we'll do is we'll get right into the example of the Asheville Chamber utilized IMPLAN on examining the economic impacts of New Belgium Brewing setting up their East Coast operations and distribution. First, I'd also like to thank the Asheville Chamber, if they are on, for providing the information and really just being very assisting with everything throughout this process. Can everyone see Victor, can you see my screen? Okay. Okay, so then yes, we can. First, okay, sounds great. Okay, so what is economic impact modeling? First off, it allows you to conduct comprehensive studies. You can choose a region, state, county, zip code, or custom region, and really understand the economic impact of a business relocating, closing, specific events. For example, I've examined everything from the Breeders' Cup in Dallas to the Belk Bowl here in Charlotte, and we'll probably have questions regarding the playoff game in Charlotte as well for the Panthers. You can also examine new construction and operations and evaluate incentive programs for your community. You can examine the current state of your local economy and really compare it with other economies to understand your unique strengths and weaknesses. You can quantify the overall contribution an organization has to the community in terms of projects, looking at real numbers, jobs, and tax impacts. And also you can reveal dependency or gaps within the supply chain and view industries based on demand on the region, really adopting that import substitution strategy. And again, you can assess the federal and state and local tax impact of the changes you're modeling. IMPLAN, just briefly, we've been around for quite a while, since 1996. It is regarded as the gold standard in economic impact analysis, and it's really a very cost-effective choice in the market when you look at the level of transparency and data you have access to. Here's a few of our government sources, just provide a context. Some of the folks have been using IMPLAN for many years, and a few consultants that use us, along with the academic and universities that use IMPLAN. What is IMPLAN Online? This is the tool we're going to be reviewing today, and it allows you to really have more access to more data. Essentially, you'll have everything from the state level to the zip code to congressional districts. You'll also, with the online format, you always have the latest and greatest information since it is in the cloud, and also allows you to work anywhere. We're all traveling around. Aaron and I were just discussing how we were in New Orleans last week for the conference, and we have the ability to work anywhere. You have an internet connection, even work on a tablet, for example. And also there's flexible pricing options with the online software. We can put together quarterly packages or annual subscriptions depending on the number of users, so we have a lot more flexibility in terms of that as well. Also, it's very user-friendly and intuitive, and as we look through this example, you'll see how it's really it's designed with the economic development practitioner in mind. Here's a few testimonials, but let's get into the brass tacks of our analysis here. So what we're going to do is look at New Belgium in Buncombe County, North Carolina. It's basically just, that's where Asheville is located. So we will get started. So let me, sorry, I need to clean up my desktop a little bit. So when you hear the first step is we'll log into the model itself. Okay, and as with any analysis, here we have our model management screen, where it basically allows you to bring up previous models you built and also organize your research. So we're going to go ahead and create a new model, and we'll call this if I can do this and see. Great. Okay. So then the next step is, as with any analysis, is to define your geography or your study region. And this is the area where we're going to measure the economic impact of this activity or event taking place. In this case, we're going to use the county in North Carolina. So here we go to North Carolina. And if you want to select a specific zip code, you could do that as well. So save. And then we simply build the economic model. And what this is doing now is taking all that data as far as the spending patterns, the workforce, the industrial mix, all of those basically unique aspects of that geography we defined, and that will essentially, and it's aggregating that to that unique geography. And it usually just takes a minute here to do the calculations, saving yourself time. Okay, just almost finished here. Just building all the multipliers for this specific economy. And we're almost wrapping this up here. Okay, so now that we have our model, our economic model built, the next step is to look at the model overview. And this is really gives you an opportunity to understand what exactly is happening in that economy, what type of industries there are, key economic indicators. As you can see, we have the base year, the number of industries. IMPLAN works on a 536 industry sectoring scheme, which is equivalent of a 3 or 4 digit NAICS code, depending on so about a 3 or 4 digit NAICS code. We also have the population, total households, average household income. That might seem a bit high to most folks because it is household, not per capita. And also, just to make sure we have the right areas in our model. Then we could look at the output. Okay, what industries are driving this economy? By output, we have real estate, healthcare, hospitals, wholesale trade. Breweries is actually showing up as contributing $391 million in this economy. So let's take a little bit deeper dive into this, the study area data. And let's take a look again with our, and this gives you an opportunity to look at employment, the output per worker. So hospitals, for example, employ 6,959 and contribute $990 million to the economy. So let's take a look at some of the other industry summary. If you were to say, okay, well, output per worker is what we need to hone in on. You can find that information here as well. And petrochemical manufacturing seems to come up in every economy and always has a very small employment. It just seems to be a trend. So let me take, and then here's one more area I want to share with you very quickly, is the household commodity demand. This is kind of fun. You can take a look at what industries the people demand by income level. So for example, if you were to take a look at breweries, for example, oh, let's take a look. I'm sorry, beer. Okay, so just in this, so basically we have a breakdown by household income in the amount of beer and alcohol and malt liquor that they consume. So it's you know, you can have a lot of fun with that kind of data. And also, let's take a look at the social account matrix. This is really, I guess you could say, the nuts and bolts of economic impact modeling. Now, I don't want to get too much in the details here because this is typically, you know, we want to move through the example, and this is usually for more of the advanced users. But it really is looking at how much this area is supplying and how much the demand is for that area. So you can determine if there's gaps in the economy or if an industry can be identified as an export industry and how much you're exporting of that specific good or service. And essentially you'd use this regional purchasing coefficient. Essentially the lower regional purchasing coefficient, the larger the gap is in that economy. So for example, we'll stick with let's take a look at using our beer example. Oh, did it again. So this industry code, beer, ale, and malt liquors, we're producing $391 million and we're demanding $34 million. So therefore, this is a strong export industry. Now let's take a deeper dive in this industry and see exactly what they need as we look up and down the value chain. And okay, so that's what this industry creates. And then we'll look at their commodity demand. So this industry, it's no surprise, they demand grains, natural gas, coal, power. And so, but what are we producing to meet that demand? So let's take a look at, so for example, metal cans and glass containers, they have a demand of $30 million, but we're not producing any. Metal cans, $37 million, and the county is only producing 24. And actually, this came up in a study I was doing out in Escondido, California, and sure enough, they attracted a glass and a can manufacturer to meet the demands for stone brewing out there, and it was kind of a low-hanging fruit. But we have a truck and transportation services, $8.8 million in demand for this industry, producing 7.4 million. So that means that demand or that need is being met by outside of our county. Another interesting facet of economic impact modeling is the multipliers. And you can really look at, again, how industries move through the economy. And we have basically two types of multipliers. There's the type 1 multiplier, which essentially is the direct, indirect, divided by the direct, also known as the business-to-business multiplier. There's also the type SAM multiplier, which is looking at the direct effect, indirect, and the induced, which includes that household spending captured by captured in the induced multiplier. So for example, if we were to see what industry has the highest multiplier in employment, we can identify those. Or output or employment, you can search by employment multiplier. Now let's take a look at, again, keeping with our brewing example, and say, okay, well, what industries are impacted as we look at this specific breweries, wineries, or we'll look at breweries. Okay, so what industries are impacted? Wholesale trade, truck transportation, real estate. So it gives you, again, up and down the supply chain of what industries we should see the most growth in, or anticipate the most growth in as a result of this activity. Or you can look at the employment multiplier, or even labor income multiplier. So there, I just wanted to highlight a few of those aspects of the data with what's really driving the economic impact modeling. And then let's go ahead and let's build the actual model and analysis. So as we move across, we are now in the activities, and we'll select an activity. 9 out of 10 times, you're going to use the industry change. That really is, think about it, that shock to the economy. In this case, we're looking at new construction, along with these 154 new jobs paying an average of $50,000 each. So we'll use industry change. And we'll call this construction. Insert. And now the next step is to add the event. This is essentially when we drive it into the specific sector. Now you can either search by NAICS code if you knew the specific NAICS code, or we can use a keyword of construction, and in this we'll utilize sector 5.3, new manufacturing. As you see, we have the single family, multifamily, also maintenance and repair. So here we'll select new manufacturing sectors. And since we're not going, what we're going to do is just look at the first, I guess you'd say the first phase of this construction, which was $20 million over the 175 million is actually going to occur over the 7 years. But for our example, And the sake of time, we'll keep this into the first year. Oops. Okay, so we have $20 million of investment. And this is, now we're looking at those direct impacts. And the model automatically calculates those based on the previous data I showed you in the model overview screen, examining those purchasing coefficients and the wages and output and so on and so forth. So this $20 million will have support 171 direct jobs, paying $6.2 million or $36,000 per worker. So then we'll insert this. And what I like to do is simply hit refresh just to kind of clean everything up a little bit. Then we'll add a new activity. So our next one, we're going to stick with industry change, and we'll call this operations. Insert. And we'll add an event. And you're not limited to any number of events. For example, I was examining the role connectivity plays on Charlotte for American Airlines, and I took every industry that identified air transportation as one of the key reasons they left. They moved to Charlotte and broke those employment numbers out individually. So there's really limitless as far as the number of events that could take place. Again, we have the power sectors here, and this basically does follow the NAICS structure. Now we're moving into the manufacturing. Let's look at breweries. Now, we'll have our employment. We will use 154. And then, since the model anticipated that the average compensation will be $40,000 per worker, since New Belgium is doing well, they're paying a little bit more than that of $50,000 per worker. So what we'll do is we'll customize this event, and this will be reflected in the induced impacts of our results, basically the household spending. So we increase that to 7.7 million, accept, and then we have basically this identifier as a custom event. So then we'll insert to that event, refresh. And so now we have basically the two events we're going to measure, input into the model, construction and operations. And also, if you can import spending patterns, or if you had a model you're looking at several different geographies, you can import or export. And so let's take a quick look at the scenarios screen. And this would give someone an opportunity. Let's say I had a high wage scenario, a low wage scenario, construction over several phases. We input each of those individually. So what we'll do is we'll add the scenario. We'll call it operations. We'll save. We'll move this here. Update. And analyze. And what this is now doing is taking what calculating the ongoing impacts of these 154 new jobs paying $50,000 each in Buncombe County, North Carolina. And we'll view these results. What we'll do, though, before we get into the results, because I want to be able to compare and contrast the operations and the construction. Move this in this new scenario, and we'll create construction, update, and analyze. So now we're analyzing the construction impacts of this $20 million, or the first phase of this construction that's going to occur over the next 7 years. And we will view the results. And here's our results for the operations. So these 154 jobs will essentially, when you look at the business-to-business spending, will support an additional 213 jobs. And the induced impact of that household spending will support 121 jobs for a total impact of 488 jobs in the county. These jobs will pay $23.1 million, and this includes both wages, salaries, and benefits. And the value added is essentially the output minus the intermediate inputs. And often that's a measure of GDP being contributed to the region. So that's $86 million. Output is just basically all the economic activity associated with this event, and that's $205.2 million. And folks do report both, and there's no right or wrong way to conduct economic impact analysis. You just have to ensure when you're doing the analysis, you're reporting it's a matter of how you want to report it. I joke around and say, economics is, it's an art and a science, so you can have a lot of fun with it here. So then we have our output. If we want to say, okay, well, what industries are impacted kind of on a large scale? We could breweries, wholesale trade, truck transportation are $3.1 million, $3.3 million. The lion's share of that taking place in, we have 21 new jobs there. Hospitals, another 1.06. And then let's look at some of the detailed results. Okay, now let's say we want to say exactly what this new business activity is spending its money on. Well, wholesale trade, $5.4 million, truck transportation, electric, banking, real estate, malt manufacturing, $790 million. So we see this, these industries that will have how their demand will increase as a result of this one event taking place. Induced, this should really come to no surprise to most folks. We'll have these owner-occupied dwellings or rental properties or real estate. That's 1.7, with other rentals, restaurants, $461,000, and you see how that money is rippling through the economy. Or you can look at what specific, how many jobs are created in each of these sectors as well. Hospitals, 7.3. And we can look at the same data for the construction of this facility. 171 jobs, indirect 26.2, and induced 53, for a total impact of 251.32. So let's take a look at the tax impacts, because that's, most folks care about jobs and taxes. So here we have the direct. Let's take a look at the direct first. So the construction of this facility, so across the top row, we have the tax-paying entity, and here we have the type of taxes paid. And so the total impact on the state and government is roughly the direct impact is over just about $250,000. And then we looked at if we want to look at the total impact, it jumps up to just about $750,000 in new taxes as a result of this construction. And let's take a look at the operations and the tax impacts we can expect year in and year out as a result of these 154 new jobs. So we'll have a direct impact of $37 million. And then we'll have, and if we wanted to look at the indirect, basically the business-to-business expenditures, that comes in at about 1.6 million. And if we wanted to look at the total, that comes in just around $40 million in new taxes for the state and county of North Carolina. Now, if we were to just look at the induced impacts, you can see personal income tax, fines, motor vehicles. So these are, you can really see how it's highlighted in these captured by these in the household, the induced impacts. Or if you wanted to adjust your dollar year here, you can do that as well. While IMPLAN is a static model, it does adjust for inflation. And all the tables you saw throughout the presentation, in both the model overview, the activities and scenarios, are fully downloadable in Excel, PDF, or Word. And also there's a lot of user resources available as well. So hopefully this offered a little bit insight into how Asheville conducted the economic analysis. And there's quite a few articles on both Fast Company, various, the business journals reporting this analysis. But I want to again thank Golden Shovel and Aaron for the opportunity to share this with you, and hopefully it piqued your interest in something I'm very passionate about: economic impact analysis and economics.
Great, thank you so much, Paul. I was wondering, certainly bringing in a $20 million brewery would be a big win for any community. We have a lot of rural communities listening in today. Would you be able to give an example of, let's say, a business expanding by 10 jobs, or light manufacturing or something of that, where they'd be able to see it on a different scale?
Oh yeah, you can measure, down to a single job. We'd have to go through the activities again, but it's really what drives even like a one job impact would be the, again, you'd be looking at these multipliers and the social account matrix. And really the scale is, I'm not going to say irrelevant, but it will be based on the, the industrial mix of that area. A rural county may not have the ability to capture spending as it moves through the economy. So that's really why it's important for the rural communities to understand, okay, well, what is going on in our economy and how that spending moves. So yeah, if you'd like, we can, do we think we have time to, I'd have to go through the activities and scenarios. It really would just be the scale would change, but I'd like to, we could look at a different study region, a more rural community later on. But it really, is the, that's really, and also I found a lot of the rural communities glean a lot of information from the study area data and the social account matrix to understand what exactly is happening in the economy, because that data may not be available for their unique geography, and really tapping into the unique nuances of what they're dealing with. Is that how?
Great. Well, yeah, I think so. A question came in to support, on the same kind of line. The question says, "This is awesome, but with a limited budget, can you give us an order of magnitude for a single user?"
Oh, well, we basically have different tiers and packages based on the complexity of the economy, in this case, the state. We sell the state package, and they range from for an annual subscription for one concurrent user, they can range between $1,600 and around $4,000, depending on the geography.
That's annually?
Yes, that's an annual subscription. We also have quarterly subscriptions as well. But again, since this is an online platform, we do have a lot of flexibility in our pricing now, and so we really want more folks in economic development agencies to utilize IMPLAN and to really so we do have we can work with you.
Excellent. Another question, can you give some examples of different ways this data has been used to track businesses?
Well, one case, personally, I've used it throughout my entire career in economic development. I started using it as a researcher, at the University of North Texas. And again, one example would be the everything from a nonprofit. I worked with Habitat for Humanity responsible for a large donation when they actually were looking at that money, their donations. I think the Asheville Chamber is a great example I just provided. We used IMPLAN on a daily basis in Texas to evaluate incentives, and also one great opportunity was in Duncanville. Northrop Grumman IT was looking to relocate, and we were able to utilize IMPLAN to understand, okay, well, do we have how exactly what this would mean to the economy? And when we were able to tell that story to the local officials, definitely, there was much more excitement about it. Again, really examining that supply chain will give a lot more depth and hone your target industry analysis. I know several communities have had some luck with that. So, and there's a few examples. I think it's really, pretty much every project I've worked on, throughout my career is incorporated IMPLAN analysis. Whether it was Comerica or a rural community in West Texas. Is that
Great.
any more specifics?
Yep.
Yeah.
Nope, that was great. Here's another question that came in. Is it possible to back into the data a different way? Say, I know I have a producer of a certain commodity and they're looking for locations where there's perhaps a demand for that in the economy.
One approach I would use is, if I were asked that question, is to if you're looking at a state level, let's say, I would utilize, just download the geographies you'd like to look at, and basically use that social account matrix, and then utilize that regional purchasing coefficient and the demand, and basically identify those gaps within these various industries, or within that industry, whatever industry, you could choose it by industry code, NAICS code, and then from there you can identify where the most opportunity would be to really identify that the existing demand based on the industrial demand. One great example regarding a rural community, Statesville, actually North Carolina, just completed a study. A colleague of mine at George Mason actually used the IMPLAN model to examine the industrial mix of this area on a very local level, to identify what industries make the most sense within this industrial park. And it really was, and that's how they're building their strategy around that. So, it definitely, rural communities do benefit from this.
Great.
Is that kind of, yeah.
Yeah, here's another question that came in. Can you speak to the reputation of IMPLAN among site location consultants?
Well, IMPLAN, we are, I don't use the term gold standard lightly, but we are, when you look at the history of IMPLAN, we've been around since 1996. We are truly the most widely sourced, peer-reviewed economic impact model, I would say, and utilized today and probably in history. It's widely regarded in the site selection community. If someone sees IMPLAN analysis, they may be able to question your assumptions and what you put in the model, but they will never question the model itself. IMPLAN is truly, it's highly regarded, and I've staked my reputation as both a consultant and while working in the chamber, utilizing IMPLAN. But it really is, and there's so much documentation on IMPLAN throughout the years. It's really, there's libraries and volumes, and lots of ink has been spilled regarding IMPLAN over the years. So it's truly, it's widely used and widely sourced. And it is actually, I don't know if anyone's familiar with the EB5s. It is recommended now by the USCIS regarding measuring the economic impacts of EB5 projects as well.
Excellent. Another question came in. Does state level mean you get only the data for one state, or do you get all 50 states, but you can drill further than the state level?
No, you'll have the state level, you'll have the U.S. total, the state total, all the counties, and all the zip codes, and we'll be adding the congressional districts shortly. So you'll have access to pretty much any possible geography you can aggregate in or take a look at in the state. And if you live in one of those states that kind of like, you know, I know St. Louis, parts of Washington, D.C., you know, we can customize the geography to meet your specific needs as well. If you like cut across, if you're MSA or if your region you're working in cuts across a few states, we can customize that to meet your needs.
Great. Do you guys provide support also for using how to use the tools?
Yeah.
Got so many moving parts.
Yeah, we have a great support team that will be available to answer any of your questions. We also have project consultation available with our economists and the project reviews. If this is your first project, you know, you can have someone kind of handhold you through this experience. And also, we have a forum or where you can post a question and have an IMPLAN economist respond typically within 24 hours. And I'll tell you, just as someone who was a user before working in IMPLAN, it has gotten me out of a few jams. So I would, it's always been very helpful. So yeah, we do have a great support team here to help you out.
Great, sounds good. Well, thank you very much. We don't have any additional questions at this point. I'll just
Wonderful.
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, again, I'd just like to thank Golden Shovel and Aaron for putting all this together. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to give me a call or send me an email at paul.hendershot@implan.com or give me a call at 704-237-3499. I'll be more than glad to help out.
All right. Well, thanks so much for taking some time today to present IMPLAN to us, and it certainly was educational for us. Thanks again, and thank you to everybody that attended today. We will have another expert webinar next month in February. We're looking at trends in 2016 for economic development. That's going to be later in the month, so keep your eyes open for the invite. And other than that, I think we'll just wrap it up a little bit early. So thanks so much for attending, everybody. I look forward to catching up with you next month.